knowing a lot of details about the project, who is the engineer and who is the architect that helped you with your drawings? Because just because it's a nice drawing and an idea that we all rally behind doesn't mean that it's feasible with that current building. And that hasn't been disclosed. So I think that's important to know. Is there an architect, is there an engineer who has helped you with this fantastic presentation?
Actually, over the last 2 years, I've talked to a lot of architects and engineers. Back when this project was started, we were told the building needed to come down because there was a brownfield underneath it. Okay, well, the reality is if the city hadn't bought the building, a private entity could have gone in there and put in another Diamond Gillette factory, so it did not need to be destroyed. People were saying the building was unsound. And I said, well, it was built in 1969. I mean, it's as solid today as the day it was built. What's happened in the last, and I do have a letter from somebody at the city staff, the building is solid and you can do this to it. Do you need to have some reinforcing on the ends perhaps? Those are things that the city should do due diligence on. They're about to spend $54 million on a ballpark that when you look at their plan, it's going to sit empty most of the year. This is something, there's so much space in it, you can bring in a lot of revenue. Oh, what else? Now, what we're hearing now is, as a cost-saving measure, they're going to keep the slab, meaning the basement of the building, so they don't have to deal with the brown soil conditions. And that's what I was arguing 2 years ago. I said, well, we got to tear the building down. So they realized that there was a point, some truth in what I was saying. That saves them a few $1 million. If you're saving the slab, you can look at saving the lower level for this parking, and then get cost to save the other components.
Right, but you're using actual numbers to get people excited about something that might actually architecturally not be possible. Do you have the actual plans for the building? You didn't even know about the mezzanine. This is something, I want there to be parking there, but you can't tell people it's going to increase parking by this much when you don't know that that's an actual possibility if you haven't been in there and you haven't got the plan.
Actually, we do know that parking can go in there. Yes. In fact, I got numbers today showing what it costs. It's structurally, ready for prime time. It's ready to be used for parking. In fact, it's tall enough that you could build an extra layer in there if you wanted to at some later date. But it's structurally just fine and sound, and that's coming from the city and the city's engineers.
I'm not saying sound. I'm saying the actual space number.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay, so
this is correct. We're talking about 500 cars could go in there.
Okay, well, of course, 600 was said earlier by somebody up there. But
500 is the number that I'm going by. Ron.
This plan.
The point is, one of the arguments that we're trying to make and get organized around is St. Paul. Stop. Don't tear the building down. Spend $25,000, $30,000. Get an independent engineer, architect, and study it. And it's not being done because it interferes with the political cycle of what's going on in St. Paul, and the quality of life for the entire Lowertown area is being sacrificed for a political end that will be the end anyway.
There's a lot of talk of politics and politicians, fine, I get that, and what I'm
we need to study that. We need what you're talking about done.
What engineer or what architect has this group, and I say this collective, who have we worked with to back this drawing up?
Well, we haven't had time because they just dumped us on the city.
But he's been working on this for
more than
2 years.
a drawing.
That's true.
But he couldn't be listened to. I was at meetings where they wouldn't listen. They were closed-minded on the project. I have been through it for the last 6 months.
Bill's education isn't architecture. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know a little bit about his background, but I'm just saying,
it's not so random.
I think we would have a stronger voice with the city and the mayor, and I'm sure Dave would as well, if we had an architect or a civil engineer or something.
I'll respond to that. During the Lowertown Ballpark Design and Construction Committee meeting, which some of these people have been in there, and Dave did ask for its creation, it did not end up being what it was asked for. They disallowed discussion on the Gillette building up until the last meeting. I then asked Logan Gherkin, the head architect for the city's plan, can we have a townhouse type meeting and separate the wheat from the chaff so that they can get up here and look you in the eye and say it can be done, because they know it can. They don't want to do it. They don't want to back up. When I did the first conceptual drawing, a perspective and a site plan in January of 11, Mayor Coleman had an opportunity to look at it the next month. When he found out, he asked, where did the idea come from? When he heard the name Hosco, he refused to look at it. And that's what's been happening ever since. The reason why this package keeps expanding is because I hear excuses from city staff. The stories I could tell you would make your head spin. I keep hearing excuses, not reason. So I kept doing more and more research on this. They simply do not want to look at it. And that's a big, sad thing for this city. I've been here a long time. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're about to destroy a building that deserves to be looked at. And I'm hoping Dave will help champion, an objective look at it. And then they're also saying the ballpark needs to get done on July. The ballpark does not... Reusing the building, it can get finished on schedule in May of 2015. The deed money they got from the state, it requires that it be finished by the fall of that year. So there's time. You're building this for the generations. What's the horse race about? I know there is a mayoral election this fall. I don't know if that's so much of it, to be honest. But there's it's like this, we can't back up. I mean, we didn't think of this, and it's like, that Logan Gherkin could have so much fun with this project. As Tom said, he would get national awards if he would just look at this. I could have put minute detail, far more than you see on this one, but it's a concept. Look at it. The building is structurally sound. You can do this to the building. I get very emotional because ma'am, if you heard some of the conversations I've had, see some of the letters, you would shake your head.
Well, I'd just like to jump in here. We've owned all of this thing only a couple of months, and it makes me shake my head, some of the things we've heard, where they simply, again, we have our interest, and we're saying, well, why don't you look at this? Why don't you look at that? And the pat answer coming out of this is we don't have the time because they have a deadline finishing the park by spring of 2015. I don't know if that's a hard deadline or if they get penalized, or I don't know why that deadline is there, but they have a deadline, and what the problem is this site, the way they kind of have it figured out right now is that they use this summer, starting in about a month or 45 days, in demolishing this thing and putting out site preparation. Now, this is not a small project. You can imagine the amount of concrete and trucks that has to be hauled out of this place and dirt that's got to be hauled out of this place. I've heard well in excess of multiple thousands of truckloads that are going to have to come out of this site this summer.
The dirt you're seeing in the photos from the Lafayette Bridge project immediately next door, right where I was standing this morning, there will be a new on-ramp onto Lafayette from 94. Sorry to interrupt you.
What I've heard tangentially, some people is they're going to have $6-8 million into this thing by this fall, and basically what they're going to have is a big hole in the ground to look at it, and that's their site prep. What they are planning on doing is, in addition to taking out the whole Gillette building and all the basement, is, as he mentioned, then take the slab that this building is sitting on and preserving that so they don't have to get into the brownfield. Then what they're proposing is that their stadium is, and they're pretty proud about this, is sunken down. They call it a stadium effect, where, in other words, the ground is, go back to where did it come from?
There we go.
Okay. And so this thing is actually settled in the ground. So when you come off of, for instance, Broadway here, you almost go into the upper part of the stadium. And what that's going to require is that this whole area here is going to have to be dug out to the level of the basement, because that's the field level. So not only are you removing the building and all that concrete and everything else, which, like I say, it's unbelievable how many truckloads are going to go out, and then they're also going to have to dig the rest of it out down to that level. Now they're into brownfield. So now what they're going to have to do is dig deeper than that and bring it. They don't even know where they're going to put this stuff, this contaminated soil that they're going to have to put out. You ask them, they say, well, we haven't decided that yet. They don't know. And then they're going to have to bring in new soil to replace that soil. So like I say, you have many millions of dollars sunk into this thing, and you haven't even started. But that's why they're hurried to do it now, because they need to do all of this summer in order that next summer, 2014, they can build it, what they're actually planning, this thing right here, so that they can open in the spring of 2015. And it doesn't make sense when they say, back to that one picture, what we're proposing is, back to here. What we're proposing is, rather than down here be the level of the field, This right here is the level of the field.
Yeah.
I call it the bathtub ring around the building. That's the top floor of the lower level, and there's 2 levels above that. But anyways, as you can see, not only with the bills or some subtype of bills proposal where you go, and I said they say the group, not bills proposal anymore.
It's not mine, it's a community.
Maybe you have to cut out, let's say, for instance, a third of this top 2 floors, which is much, much less, many more less truckloads coming out. And this whole area here is almost at grade right now, so it doesn't have to be moved. And yet, when we talk to the city, say, hey, they're saying that our proposal is going to cost more than their proposal. It doesn't make sense. I mean, you just look at it. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. But when somebody tells me that leaving this at grade and basically undisturbed is going to cost more than doing this massive amount of work this summer, it just does not add up.
Tall guy in the back there. You, yellow shirt, you.
Okay,
Yeah. Stand up, please. Stand up so we can hear you.
my voice carries.
Okay.
How much money does the mayor need to see to change his mind? And seriously, has anyone come up and said, look, this is the budget plan or anything like that, compared to what people are telling you for their proposal? Has someone showed him the money and crunched the numbers yet?
You know, nobody's on the take and say, Paul, believe me. No, they really aren't. Nobody's on the take. And I think this is driven more by a timeline than it is by politics. And the timeline is there, it's real. But something this important, I think all I'm saying, all Bill's saying, all other people are saying is this is too important to just keep it on a fast track. We've raised a number of real issues, and we need to stop and take a look and see if there's another way to do it to answer some of these other questions. That's all we're asking. We're not claiming we have all the design and engineering data, although nothing we've seen says you can't do it. It's just a design function that will change. But all we're asking is just stop and take another look. And let me repeat, you gotta send emails, you gotta send letters, you gotta make phone calls. You know, I've already spoken up and said stop. It's not stopping. That's just the way City Hall works. We need to hear from people in each office of the council and the mayor's office.
Put your email address or phone number on there, or if you stay a little while longer, I'll give you more contact information. Yes, sir.
I have been at a few of these committee meetings where the public is basically present but can't speak, except for the very last one where we were permitted to say a few words. So basically, the committee talks amongst each other, not completely without the outside listening into it, but without any input from the outside because they don't let us talk. I hope sincerely that somebody from the Pioneer Press and maybe from the TV would be here, because we are here pretty much from downtown St. Paul population and mainly from Lowertown. I think the St. Paul general public needs to know what is going on in those closed committee meetings and those decisions being made without input of the general public. I think that's what the newspaper and what TVs are there for, is to basically bring the concerns of a sizable group of people to the attention of the general public and let the general public see how things are being done in the St. Paul.
Is Pioneer Press here currently? Yes, sir. Yeah.
The villagers here.
We wanted to do a videotape and record the meeting so we could spread it.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Hans Slag, concerned citizen. My encouragement, to all of us, and I agree here, is to send as many letters and emails as we possibly can. I was a temporary legislative assistant, and I can tell you firsthand, unless we all send a massive pile to them, the individual, representatives, senators, will not look at it unless you give them a reason. The only reason we can give is that there's this public outcry and support for this plan, or at least I like that. Let's have an independent architect to see which is the best plan, or maybe there's an amalgamation that we can do, a combination, or whatever. And So yeah, you have to send in letters and things like that, but what I really wanted to get to was, the parking in downtown is a huge, huge deal. And I don't live in St. Paul, but I live in the third-tier suburb. I live in Eagan, south of the Twin Cities, right? But I commute to St. Paul about 5 days out of the week. I mean, and there's a lot of us that do that, where we need to have that downtown St. Paul parking, and it can be very hard and hairy to do, especially in the winter. And it's more practical for a lot of us to drive there, park, do our business, whatever it is, and then drive home rather than being forced to do light rail or bus transits, which just adds to our commute time. And the point of observation is, right, that a lot of people brought up, the more parking that we have, the more reason you're given to actually go to St. Paul, downtown St. Paul, and conduct business and do things there. Right. So it just makes sense to have that. But also, this affects my church. This is my pastor right here, Pastor Chick. We're kind of an unconventional church, I guess, but we have our sanctuary in an office building, the Allen building. We're kitty corner to the Gillette building. And parking is an issue. We want people to be able to come to church and not have these reasons put in place that could give people an excuse not to come to church, right? I mean, for me or for a churchgoer, I mean, it's an issue for me. Like, we want people to hear the word of God. We want it to be taught. We want an opportunity for people to come to church. And having increased parking does that. You know, it's whether or not you believe in God or the devil or Jesus Christ, I do. You know, my relationship with God needs to be sure. I'm going to go to heaven when I die. And I want all these people to have that relationship, if at all possible, to have the opportunity to come to a church, be presented that opportunity. So this plan has a spiritual component to it. It really, really does. And it also has an immense, right, practical, economic component to it. So we need more parking. We need, or at least check it out, we need this Gillette plan.
If you're going to leave before we're done, I'll stay here until 10. Put your email address in there. They will stay blind. They will not be shared. When we send out emails, nobody will see your address. I want to tell you real quick, I'm as green as you get. I'm a vegetarian. I don't own a vehicle. I bike and walk everywhere. I use the bus. I rent the car a few times a year. But it's very important to the well-being of downtown. You make it convenient and easy for people to drive down. That's just the reality of the world. It's the reality of the farmers market being able to stay on that site. Questions?
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
We have maybe 200 people here. Do you think 200 letters to the mayor and all the council people are enough to make?
I think would make a huge difference.
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
So
If everybody here, who here would send an email?
Yeah, get your address on there, and really they will not be shared.
Will you do it? I guess the only message I keep saying is that we've got the time. Let's just, what was the slogan we came up with?
Great slogan.
It was your quote.
I know, I can't remember what I said.
There is still
time, let's do it right.
There is still time, let's do it right. And that's the truth, what he said.
Really, that's the message you need to send. But if everybody here sent one tonight, there'd be a lot of full.
But remember, there are 6 other people on that council that have got to be changed.
Yeah. And real quick, your email address is important, and there's a website that a group of people who live downtown, they just set it up. It's on Facebook. And if you stay, I'll give you that address before you leave. But if you give us your email, we'll get you on that Facebook. I'm not too much into Facebook, but a lot of people are. That's a huge way for people to see that you have something to say, and they can see your face and be part of this. That's Chuck's site and Megan. Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, Terry.
People should, when they write, send copies to their friends, relatives, relationships, anybody else who asks them to write.
Chris needs to hear from you. Yeah. Okay, man.
Basically going to repeat. I'm very concerned about parking downtown, and I speak as a lifelong non-driver, but people need to be able to park.
Yeah.
And the second thing is I'm really, really concerned about keeping the farmers market downtown. And you talk to people about why they never come to downtown St. Paul. They always say they can't find parking.
Or convenient parking for them. Yeah.
Minnesotans won't walk.
Who's had
There was a woman in silver hair right over there.
Okay, yeah.
families and grandparents who are going to be, who will need a place to park, where they can just easily come and enjoy our park.
Somebody's over here holding up their hand a long time, right there. Their arm's getting tired. I haven't noticed it.
Ladies first. Okay, wait a second. Ladies first. I've been holding my hand up just.
I'm sorry, ma'am, if I've overlooked you. I'm sorry.
My name is Dorothy Griddle, and I am a newcomer to St. Paul, to Lowertown. I've only lived here a couple of years. I'm fortunate that I live in the Cosmopolitan Apartments. You can point that out right across from you, nearest part of it. Because that's the Rayak Ramp.
Oh, there's the Rayak. Yes, I'm sorry.
The U-shaped one is the Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, that piece.
Now that's one of the few apartment buildings at the time that I could find that allowed me to have my 2 medium-sized dogs. And not only that, but thank God they've got garage parking underneath the building. I feel fortunate that I don't have to be out there looking for a place to park every day. I've got one. My concern is about the Lowertown Dog Park, which is, as I understand it, also a city park that's about to be destroyed. Point that out on the map for us, please, sir.
There's a little area here, but that's the dog park there.
That's what I'm talking about. The off-leash area over there by the parking that's about to be lost by the marketplace.
There's no room for it in their plan. They don't allow it.
Where's the place for it in your plan?
It triples in
Let's
size.
take a look at that.
You got a vote.
It's almost right there.
And the 2 dogs.
I put a lot of thought into this, folks. I mean, I thought about dog.
You know, one of the things we need most as city dwellers is open space, and we need to have an environmental assessment or impact statement about the new proposed construction. I don't know if our city has thought of that, and I can't understand why our city would want to take away a city park that is open space, that allows off-leash area for the mini dogs in Lowertown. You had a couple of dogs in one of your pictures walking across 5th Street there. You know, that is my sanctuary, that dog park, because I can go there with my 2 mutts and sit on the bench and enjoy the 30 mature trees that are on that lot. Why destroy them? That's all I had to say, and thank you.
There is an environmental assessment that's been done, and it's waiting for comments from people. You can find that online. Look up the city of St. Paul. I don't know, look for Ballpark or Saints or something like that, and there'll be a place where you can register any feelings you have. But typically, they don't do very much because nobody ever sends anything.
Do you have the exact address of that maybe you could give me after the meeting?
I think I don't know it offhand. I think if you just look up City of St. Paul and look for the Saints Ballpark, you'll find it.
Or leave us a note on the tab outside. We'll get it for you.
Okay. Just one further comment. When I was at the dog park this morning, I picked up the flyer for this meeting, and it said on there, "Save our dog park." And then when I get here, I see the list of the emails that I can contact about saving the dog park or making some changes to the ballpark. Wouldn't it be nice if those were all on a little bitty business card so I can hand them out to my buddies at the dog park and they can stick it in their pocket when they're out there walking their dog? They don't have any purse or anything to stick it in. Let's put it on a little business card, not on a big color brochure. Let's not spend the money on that. Let's put it on a business card, and you can hand out a lot more of them that way.
Sandra, that'd be your job. Yes, sir.
Okay, I was trying to figure out what the process for this is, like the eminent domain for getting rid of the marketplace's parking lots, or were they leasing that from the city?
No, they purchased it.
Okay, so
and the initial way the city was attempting to get it, because they needed it for that plan, was they went ahead right away with eminent domain, which I think is wrong. And I think we've got the city staff squared away that they're now trying to find a replacement rather than just buy them out. So that's where we're at on that.
Okay, the city owns this project. This is a municipal project.
This is a municipal project, which is why they can use eminent domain.
And they're floating bonds for it?
The whole funding process is very complicated. I couldn't even tell you exactly. You know, it's half the money from the state and a little bit more from the city, and then 10 million from the
So
city.
there had to be due diligence, like environmental impact statement,
Yep.
and I assume somebody somewhere did a traffic study for this thing?
That's where I think we're lacking. They've done a study, but the study basically said, here's what we need for the ballpark. There's 6,000 spots within 6 blocks. And that's great for the ballpark, but that's not great for the citizens and businesses.
That's a wish list. That's not a real. I mean, I live in the Lowertown Commons on the 7th floor, so I get a panorama of this whole thing, including the farmers market, and this summer it's going to be the light rail, which is also going to be interesting when they're demoing this building. Also, I'm an architect, and I just finished a 77-acre, 500,000 square foot building in Chicago. So
Good.
I've seen this kind of stuff all my life.
There is an environment. I can't remember. It's not an EIS, environmental something or other. EAW, and you can find it online, and it does cover parking. But again, in my mind, it covers only what does the ballpark need, not what does the rest of the neighborhood need.
They would do all the arterials, would do, you get a real professional firm to do it instead of some cube rat doing it in the office. So, I have a really jaded experience with municipalities and other authorities having jurisdiction. What is the schedule? When's Ryan going to start?
They want to start demolition this summer, early
June
summer.
1st.
June 1st?
Roughly June 1st.
April Fool's Day?
No, June.
The building needs to be remediated, and I've heard that as an excuse. Well, the remediation to repurpose the building is going to be expensive. It's like, well, you have to do that whether you keep the building or take it down.
Yeah.
And that's going to start occurring late next month or into May.
I mean, I have a bad feeling that we could write, spend all of our hours in front of our little keyboards writing emails and letters to everybody downtown. And as a politician, and I really
You said that in a friendly way, right? I think it's hard to stop something that's barreling down this far. But I think if 200 people all of a sudden send emails and letters to City Hall, I think that would get people to go, oh, geez, maybe there is something.
There's also the I word that you can, the injunction.
I've never put a lot of faith in suing, because usually the city's got lawyers on staff.
To fight against you, isn't that something? You're paying their salary, and they're going to fight against you here if they need to.
But in order to buy time.
I think we just got to overwhelm it with numbers and say, look, it's time. Let's do it right.
Well,
Don't go after politicians. Don't tell them I'm going to sue you. Actually, honestly, we kind of dismiss that. When people threaten to sue, I kind of blow it off, because everybody threatens that, and nobody ever does it successfully.
Civil disorder.
I'm going to address your parking thing. I didn't get into this earlier. Right now, 5th Street wraps around the site. It's been dead end down here for a couple of years because of the bridge. It used to go through here, and then it would hit 4th Street and go up to Vento and off to Mounds Park in 94. With the city's concept, that goes away. Okay. I can just feel it in my bones. You're going to have a congested mess down here. Prince Street, they're going to try to upgrade, but all the surface lots are back here. I can just feel it's going to be a congested mess. And as Dave said, everybody's going to take every street spot for 6 blocks in all direction. Anybody who lives down here, you're going to be, what? This concept, right from the beginning, it just makes it. There's enough to actually, this is pen and ink and watercolor, technical pen.
It's very nice.
There's just enough room to wrap 6th Street around the site to hook up with 4th. so traffic can actually flow around the site. With the city's plan, it's not going to be able to do that. You put in a full-fledged intersection here and there with lights. When cars come in from the east off of 94, pre-big event time, Saints games, concerts, whatever you got, pre-big event time, you actually have this a one-way so they can hang a left if they don't want to park in the building and go for the cheap lots out back. Rather than having to go through Lowertown and get over there, they can hang left and go back. After game time, you reverse 6th Street to flow the way it does the rest of the way out of downtown to help them get out of downtown easily. People will stay and spend money if they want, but if you stick them in traffic every time they get in and out of here, they're not going to come as often. So that's just one more reason why this should be looked at as far as the traffic flow.
People are starting to leave, so maybe we should try to get as many more questions in.
Yeah. How many more people have questions? Well, yes, ma'am.
Can you show me on both plans how the trail connection is preserved to East Bento and Salem Creek? I didn't see that.
With the city's plan, I'm concerned about this. We want to have a path between the buildings.
Okay.
Okay, that's a 2-block long cattle chute. The grade drops.
Actually, the road, the path is the road that goes by the Black Dog Cafe.
That's Prince Street, but
and then back, and it does curl back around and connect up to the other streets in the back trail.
There was talk about that being a trail. Or a bike path back there as well.
I think right now we have the bike paths included in the streets. One of the other issues, though, is by extending the street, we take out a couple rows of parking in the existing surface parking that the people in the northern warehouses. So, again, we lose more there as well.
This allows you 2 ways to get to Vento. Again, easier flow for people. Yes, sir.
Can I see the city's plan there?
Yeah.
So you're showing that path right there is going to be the trail to the Vento right there?
I've been to a number of meetings. They talked about Prince Street, they want to put in a bike lane, but this they talked about having a pedestrian walkway between this.
Got to be a little honest with you. I wasn't always a born-again Christian. I wasn't always a pastor, but I can tell you as a former criminal, that is a great place to be robbed.
He's telling the truth, folks. He's telling the truth.
Right now, I just looked at that, and I still have a habit when I go to new congregant's house.
Yep.
On habit, I still case the place. But I'm telling you right now, I just looked at my buddy right here and I go, that is a great choke point. And a former Marine, that is a great choke point.
Yeah.
For only you are trapped.
You don't have it with that plan.
No, that plan, I'm out of business.
Yeah.
Who else we got for questions?
All of my brothers. Yeah,
Not really a question.
Yeah.
My name is Ed Carl. I'm also just a concerned citizen. And one of the things I was just thinking of in regards to, there was the comment from the woman back here regarding can we do this with the building? And I think our main focus here is not so much that can we do this exactly, and if it's right. We can't, it fails.
That's right.
We should be focusing on these goals here of parking and having something that we can have all year round.
Yes.
You know,
That's it. That's
it. That shouldn't stop us. It should be a matter of this is what we need, and not that it has to happen.
You raised one more good point, and that's Bill has mentioned it too. That the idea of this thing has always been it's a 12-month of the year. Okay. Festival grounds, all sorts of stuff. We had an internal city meeting a while back. We talked about the winter things. At the end of the meeting, they said, "Well, none of that's in the budget." So really, all you have left is ball games and concerts. And concerts with 7,000 people pose another problem to the residential area. Believe me.
Can I talk about winter carnival events in this plan?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. It's dug into the ground. It's going to capture a lot of winter sun. So the surface of this is going to be 5, 10, 15 degrees warmer than the surrounding area. It's going to be hard to have ice or snow not melt in that setting. You save the Gillette building. In the wintertime, a large shadow will be cast across. It'll be perpetually in shadow for a couple of months. So you'll be able to keep ice and snow in there and do a lot of winter events.
The Vulcans will never win.
Any other questions? Are we doing okay?
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Please, if you care about this, take that little bit of extra time, look up the city's website if you don't have it on a flyer, and send that email as fast as you can.